Make this should be a full shleima for everyone that needs. Today we're going to start the new parak. Maybe Kadayayin. It's on 29, bottom of 29b. The Mishnah says, maybe Kadayayin mimakim lamakim. If someone's bringing jugs of wine from one place to another place. Now, it is moving things. Now, it's not clear over here what this. There's no real issue of carrying in Rosh Hashanah. It's Yom Tov. And so, what is the issue? The issue is that it's not Yom Tov stick. It's not Shabbos stick. You're moving things. I mean, you could go into your house. You could rearrange your whole house. Redecorate without doing any malachas. But that's not Yom Tov. So when you're bringing these jugs of wine, don't put them all into a basket or in a box and start moving them, because that's a moving company. It's a weekday sort of thing. Well, maybe I'll say, but you can bring them you can carry them on your shoulder. That would mean just one or two jugs, or lefanov, or in his hand, in front of him. Also, if he's bringing straw, what's he bringing the straw for? Well, on Yom Tov he's allowed to make a fire, and he's also allowed to feed his animals, so he's bringing straw. So you shouldn't throw the basket over him, because that's how you carry a lot of things. But you can bring it in your hand, which that would be a small amount, which that's more Yom Tov. Then it says maschilin ba'arima satevin. You can begin using the pile of straw. Now, this pile of straw, beautiful. Take a Gemara. Let me see, it's been about many years since we learned together. 10 years? 7th grade? 8th grade? 8th grade. Beautiful. So you're allowed to wear on top of Daf Lamed, straight mamish, the top words. Yeah, you can start with this pile of straw, even though it wasn't designated for use. It's sort of like your storage, right? Really? So, you can start to use. You can take initially, and this means that even though you have other straw possibly, but you're allowed to go and take from this pile that's normally set aside. I don't know, they put aside this straw or whenever. This was set aside, but you're allowed to go use it. Now, the Gemara is going to discuss that apparently there's no issue of muktzah. Now, muktzah we say you can't move a pen, you can't move a phone, a computer, that's muktzah. But what muktzah really means is that it's been designated out of use. It's muktzah. It's like set aside. I'm not using this today. That's what really. Now, what gets the status of muktzah? Well, anything that you're not allowed to use today. So that would be like anything that would be prohibited to use because of a malacha becomes muktzah. That's a typical muktzah. But muktzah also applies to things that you're not using because it's put in storage. That's also muktzah. So here, when it says maschilim barima satevin, that you're allowed to use straw that's set aside, apparently there's no issue of muktzah because there's really a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. If muktzah is an issue, if there is such a concept of muktzah. But you can't use wood that's set aside. Now, wood that's set aside, they would have to have a lot of storage wood. They would have to cut wood. That was what they used for fuel. It had to be piles of wood somewhere. So there was wood that they had set for use. And then they had their storage wood. You can't go to those storage wood. We're holding the flamet. That's 38. You have to figure out how to find 38. It's two Masechta. 174. Yeah, 174. Okay, Tana. We're up to the Gemara. What we learned at the beginning of the Mishnah is that when you're doing moving, when you're transporting things from one place to another, that you shouldn't do it in a weekday fashion. So we have a brayso that says like this: mutter. If it's impossible, is like if it's not possible to do it in an abnormal way, then you're allowed to do it in the way that looks weekday-ish. Now, why would it be impossible? So apparently, Rashi says if you have a lot of guests, you have to bring it all. Or you have to bring it all at once. Take 2 trips. Right? What does it mean? It's impossible. And we'll see in the Gemara that could be an issue of taking 2 trips. It's not so clear. Askin Rava b'Mechuza. Rava lived in the city of Mechuza. He didn't really speak so highly about the people of Mechuza. He was the rabbi of that city. It's in Babylon, more or less. Yeah. The people over there were more wealthy. They weren't farmers. They were city. It was the city people. And he spoke about their merchants. He spoke about them, that they had certain mannerisms or habits, and things that he wasn't so fond of. So Rava made a decree in Mechuza. Dara Beduchka, Daru Berikma. Now, the pshat that's easiest here is the gra. Rashi has a pshat. It's just very hard to explain. The words are great, but the explanation of what's going on, what we're trying to do is we're saying that you have to do it in a way that's either easier when you're carrying on Yom Tov. You're not supposed to carry like a mover. So you're supposed to carry it in a different way. You're supposed to change it. Now, the best if you can make it in an easier way. So the gra, you see this brackets, if you have the gra is the bracket, the way I have it. And that olive. So the gra quotes the Rambam. He says that if you would carry it on a stick, which sounds like, you carry it I don't know if it's a stick across, like a water pail stick or something. So then, l'dara berigla, then you should carry it on your back. I don't know how it fits in the words, but that makes sense, that a stick would be heavier than something on your back. L'dara berigla, if you carry it on your back, l'dara ba'agra, then you should carry it on your shoulder, which that's going to be lighter than carrying something on your back. L'dara ba'agra, l'dara ba'akba. Something that you would carry on your shoulder, you should carry in your hand, which means that you're lessening the load. You're carrying less things, or maybe you're just changing the way you're carrying it to make it more Yom Tov. The darabak, but something that you carry in your hand, you put a cloth over it, so it's not so clear that it's not so weekday-ish. I'm not sure what the cloth is going to do. It's a small shinoi. It's a small change. Okay. Bimla yafshar, and if all of this is impossible, shari, then it's mutter. Shari is the same word as mutter, the shin and the ta. Shari, like mutter. Okay. The Amar Mar, because we learned before, right at the beginning of the Gemara, that if you can't do it in abnormal fashion, then it's going to be mutter. That was the pshat from the Rambam. Now, if you have a translation, it may not say that. Yeah, we're not even dealing with muktzah right now. We're dealing with moving things that are not muktzah, but you don't want to move them on Yom Tov in a weekday fashion. Rashi's pshat is a little different. Rashi's pshat, let's go it over again. The Daro Beduchka, he says something that you carry on your shoulder, which is very heavy. Then Lidaro Barigla, you should carry with a pitchfork. Now, I don't know why that's going to be easier. The Lidaro Barigla is something that you carry with a pitchfork, which it says is like barrels or salt or something. Then you should carry Ba'agra. You should carry with a stick. Okay. And what is the Agra? This is two people carrying a stick on their shoulders, like a cross, like the picture on the Carmel wine. People carrying the grapes. So, and then the Darab Agragi, using the stick, the Darab Akpa, then you should carry it. What does he say? Akpa is on your, it's also with the stick, but in your hand. Okay. The Darab Akpa, if you're then you just carry it and with a cloth over it. So there's different translations of what's going on, but the idea here is that you're supposed to do it in a way that's lighter and different. Now there is a Rashi here. The Daruba Agra, where Rashi says that when you were carrying it on your shoulder, now you're carrying it in a hand. Is it easier in your hand than on your shoulder? Rashi says, even though it's not any lighter, but at least it's different. So it's not 100% that you have to make it do it in an easier way. You have to do it in a different way. What are we learning? That you're not supposed to do things on Yom Tov the way you do them on the weekday. And you're also supposed to minimize the effort, the exertion that you do on Yom Tov. Amalei Rav Chanan bar Rava Rav Ashi. Or at the end, Rav Chanan bar Rava I thought was much earlier, but here he is in the last generation. Emma Rabbanan, the rabbi said, Kamadev Shalashneim Mishanin and B'yei Metava. You're supposed to try to do things different on Yom Tov. Bahani Nashi, but there are these women, the Kamalia Chatzvayu Maya B'yei Metava. They fill up their buckets with water on Yom Tov. They're not doing anything different. They're carrying the water pails in a regular weekday manner. And no one's telling them anything. So it's not possible. This is a typical conversation between the rabbi of a Chabad house and some from member that shows up. What's going on? Your congregants are not doing it according to the Shulchan Aruch. So he says, well, what do you want from me? He says like this, Hey Chaliyavid, what do you want them to do? The Malya Bechatz V'Rabba to Malya Bechatz V'Zuta. You want me to tell them if they were using a big barrel, they should now use a small barrel? Kamaf Shebei Lucha. Then they're going to have to take 2 trips. So, okay, now that's a tircha. Okay, that's a body. Now you have to go twice. The Malya Bechatz V'Zuta to Malya Bechatz V'Rabba. If they were using small buckets and they were taking 2 trips, now they should fill it up in a big bucket, so they should only take 1 trip. Kamaf Shebei B'Masei. You're making the weight heavier. That's also a tircha. You know, sometimes it's easier to break the load up and to take the 2 trips than to try to carry this heavy thing, right? So, okay, so what do you want? Techasye benachdema, you should cover the pail with a wood cover. Zimnin denafel vasilasuye, the wood cover is going to fall, and they're going to carry it. No, I don't see any problem with carrying the wood cover. It's Yom Tov. But I see in Rebetzal Ranchberg, you see that on the bottom of the page, at least by me, not on the bottom or on the side. Hagoyis Marab Ranchberg quotes from the Shita Mekubetzas. It says, Zimnin de mitbar ba'asila suyay. Maybe it's going to break. If it falls, the cover falls off, the cover will break. You'll end up carrying the pieces, and the pieces are muktzah. The broken pieces are muktzah. It's Yom Tov, he's allowed to carry. So what is Rav Ashi saying that, oh, it's not going to work, they could fall, and you're going to create more issues than you have right now? The issue that's now going to happen is that if it falls, it's going to break, they're going to carry those pieces. So, well,
Isn't the pshat is just it's more work for the or just like the drugs are more work.
Two things.
Yeah.
That could be also. Could be now you have to carry the bucket plus in your other hand you have to carry the maybe. Okay. So the Gemara says, well, taktere, tie it on. Tie on the covers so it's not gonna fall. Well, the mafsik vasilamictory, maybe it's gonna get untied and then you'll have to tie it again. That's a problem with making a knot. Well, just cover it over at least with a suda, with a cloth. Well, zimnin the matmish b'maya vasil de schita, creating another problem. Maybe it's gonna get soaked in the water, and then you're gonna squeeze it out, and that's a problem. Schita is a problem of dash. They're not saying that it's an issue of libun here. It sounds like schita is a problem of dash. You're gonna squeeze libun is laundering. It's not a problem of laundering, and they didn't mention that. Remember once before it's not laundry, it's getting dirty. Remember we had that. Okay. So Hilkach Layafshir, that's his explanation why he's not telling his congregants or their wives how they should carry the water pail differently on Yom Tov and in the week. Amalei Rava Barav Chanan La Abaya. This is a different Rava. Rava Barav Chanan says to Abaya, Tanan, says in the Mishnah, in Metapchen, Vein Mesapken, Vein Merakten, you're not allowed to clap on Shabbos or Yom Tov. You're not allowed to bang your leg like this. You're not allowed to bang, to make a noise. Vein Merakten, you're not allowed to dance. There goes the ladies. Yeah, the old chills. You go in, you just hear. Nothing happening. So, yeah, this is not simplistic. So he's asking, but now we see that people are doing this. No one's telling them anything. Yeah, another complaint. They're telling the Abaya. No one's telling these people that they're not allowed to clap, they're not allowed to dance, they're not allowed to bang. According to you, he says them back. Hadam Rava. It's a surprise that Abaya should quote Rava like that. On the side, it's adjusted to Rava. But they quote other sources that it's actually Rava. This is the Rava. Abaya and Rava are contemporaries. So he says, when there's an alleyway, so if there's a beam that goes across the alleyway, if there's a post by the alleyway, then you're allowed to carry in that. The alleyway is closed on three sides. It's a mavit. So Minatari, you're allowed to carry in there. But the rabbi said that you have to put up a post to make a designation that it ends here and outside is the Rosh Hashanah. It's either a wall or a simon, is different ways. But it says that you shouldn't sit at the edge of the right by that mavli, right? You shouldn't sit right there because maybe something's going to roll out of your lap or roll out of your hand and it's going to end up rolling out into the Rosh Hashanah, and then you're going to go get it. So you're sitting at the entrance. Bahani Nashi, but there are these women, the Shaklin Chatzvayu. They take their, what is Chatzvayu? Do you have any comment there? Their buckets. Yeah, we had that before. Chatzvayu Maya. They take their buckets. They sit at the edge and no one tells them anything. So he responds like this. He asks him this question in response. He asked Abaya, how come no one's telling the people that they can't clap and dance on Yom Tov and Shabbos? So he asked him back with another question, right? That's how he answers the question. He says, according to you, that there's a problem. So how come the women are sitting at the edge of the mavoi with their buckets? They shouldn't be sitting right there because something could fall and they'll end up carrying it. The answer to my question is going to be the answer to your question. Leave the Jews alone. It's better that they should do it by mistake, unknowingly, than they should do it deliberately, because we think that they're going to do it anyway. So don't tell them because you're just going to make it worse. Sort of like, don't ask the question if you can't handle the answer. So why is it that we can't clap? Very good. Yeah. You want to tell us? See the Tosfos? There is a very interesting Tosfos there. You ready? Take a look at this Tosfos in the Tanan. Yeah, it's straight across from where we're holding. It says, Rashi explains, Shemi Yisakin Klishir. You may fix an instrument when you start clapping. Yeah. Now, however, Lididan Shari, for us, it's permissible to clap because in those days, they knew how to make musical instruments. So then you can make that decree, but we don't know how to make those instruments, so we're going to clap. We're not going to make an instrument. Like Abu Nassan says, sure, it happens all the time. How's your twins car? Or a tricycle is for sure good because you do a lot with this. Yeah. Or scooters. Yeah, so close on them to it was in Shulchan Aruch, it actually says not to clap, but there are other sources that say that it's acceptable. So with the shino, even Alter Rebbe, I think restricted on it. But the Rebbe was lenient. The Rebbe would clap. They would quote the Minchas Salasa. Minchas Salasa. The Rebbe was very fond of the Minchas Salasa. The Munkacher Rebbe. He assisted the Friedrich Rebbe in getting out of prison. He used his influence there. So the Rebbe was very fond of him, but not just for that reason, but also. So the Rebbe was turned around to someone and he said, it went like this. Minchas Salasa. I don't know about that. Did in the Catskills when I grew up. Okay. So the answer to what he's saying, the answer to my question about not telling them to clap, about not to clap, is because it's better that they should do it without knowing that it's prohibited, then they should do it even if it is prohibited. Now the Gemara goes on, it says, so therefore, in your story also, well, I'm sorry, he's saying about the women sitting by the edge of the mavoi, mutav shiur shaygin, volume mazidin. They want to sit over there. I don't know why specifically there. They probably want to watch the crowds or something. So with buckets. Well, that's probably for the drinking, for the water or whatever. So too, the clapping is also, don't tell them because they'll end up doing it deliberately. Then the Gemara says, when do you take this approach? Don't say anything because they're going to end up doing it deliberately. Will you stay quiet? That's only for rabbinic laws. Or like over here, it's a decree. If it's going to go out, then you're not going to end up. And so those are just rabbinic decrees. When it comes to deraisa, you have to tell them. Gemara says, it's actually not true. There's no difference. Even by deraisis, you don't tell them. You don't tell them anything. Because when it comes to adding on to Yom Kippur, there's a deraisa that says that you have to fast also on the 9th. It says you're supposed to So what we explained is that you add on to the 10th by fasting a little bit on the 9th. But nevertheless, you see that the people, they eat and drink until it gets dark. We don't tell them anything. See this? Even though that's a deraisa. Place over here says, sounds like from this Gemara that there is a defined shear that they're supposed to be adding on to Yom Kippur. Why is that? He says, are they really eating up to the very last moment? That's impossible. Because the very last moment is not really defined. You have to stop somewhere before. They're not going to eat on Yom Kippur. So they are stopping before Yom Kippur. They're stopping. Question is, are they stopping enough that it's considered Tesefes Yom Kippur? Well, if they're stopping before, then they're adding on to Yom Kippur. So why? It says, no, it must be that there is a defined shear of how much Tesefes Yom Kippurim should be, and they're not keeping it. But they're definitely stopping before Yom Kippur. It's just not the whole defined shear. So, and we're not saying anything because Mutav Shir is Shaygim al Yemasida. What is the shear? He says, the Pirish HaTesefes Lehuver HaShir. We don't have it clear. So therefore you should stop sometime by day. Now, yeah, it doesn't give us a set shear. Even after Taisra says there has to be a shear, he doesn't tell us what it is. Right. Yeah. How much time do you have to add? We still don't have a defined shear. Right. Okay. It's interesting. Why didn't they put it into the calendar? Like, this is the time of Tesefes. Is it in the calendar, or does it just say Shkia? And it was when you get the time chart, does it say that Yom Kippur starts then, and Tesefes Yom Kippur starts then? Does it actually tell you the time for Tesefes Yom Kippur? Do we have a set time? Oh, it says when to stop eating, so that must be the Tesefes.
Usually candle lighting.
Oh, yeah? So that would be 18 minutes. There is this like secret 4 minutes that Alter Rebbe has that could be used possibly for Tesefes Shabbos. You know about this 4 minutes? There's a secret 4 minutes that Alter Rebbe says that it's there could be another 4 minutes after sunset that it's not really sunset. Yeah, this is a secret. So, but what you would do is, but you can't do malacha then and anything either, because that would be considered, that could be your Tesefes. You're supposed to add to Shabbos as well. You're supposed to add to. So when you stop by Shkia, and it works, so it could be you've already done the Tesefes based on those 4 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, after Shkia. So therefore, but we don't do malach after Shkia. We stop at Shkia, so that means we're stopping 4 minutes before. That means we've just added on 4 minutes. Yeah, that's what it is. What's happening? We don't do it. We stop. No one relies on those 4 minutes. Shkia. There's no. What do they say? What's the difference between someone that keeps Shabbos and someone that doesn't? Shkia. That's it. Everything stops. Okay. Maschilim barei masateven. Ready? We said that you're allowed to take from this pile of straw, even though it's been like designated out of use. Right now, it was put away for storage. You're allowed to go and use that pile. Amar Rav Kana. Rav Kana says, this means that you're allowed to take from storage places initially. And storage places means that it was set aside that you weren't going to use it. Not to go, to the new boxes of things that haven't been opened yet or whatever. I don't know how to open them. So the Gemara says, Mani, which opinion is this that says that you're allowed to take from things that are set aside? Reb Shimon, it has to be the opinion of Reb Shimon, which is Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, that he argues with Reb Yehuda, it's Reb Yehuda Bar Bilai, about muktzah. Reb Shimon is lenient about muktzah, and Reb Yehuda is strict about muktzah. This must be the opinion of Reb Shimon. Ema Seifa, let's read further. Avalei beitzim sheba muktzah, but you're not allowed to use the wood from the storage. Asum Reb Yehuda dislay muktzah. We have one Mishnah that's inconsistent. It starts with the opinion of Reb Shimon that you can take the straw, and it concludes, but you can't take the wood. That's the opinion of Reb Yehuda. The Gemara answers, Hacha ba'arzi v'ashuchi askinan, the muktzah machmas chisar and kiss v'afilu Reb Shimon maida. We introduced a new type of muktzah by changing the scenario. You know what wood we're talking about? We're talking about this extremely expensive wood. It's a cedar wood and a shuchi. It's some type of expensive wood. And the Steinmetz says that it's a fir tree or something. It's very unique wood. Okay, that's arze, and ashuchi is what is arze is cedar usually. What's the second? Are there two trees or just one? No, it's fine. It's here it has what's it called?
It's a coniferous. It's an evergreen tree. Any tree conifers except for the
Okay. The muktzah machmas fisan kiss. We have a new type of muktzah over here. Muktzah machmas fisan kiss is a muktzah that no one would touch because it's only used for a specific use. The example of muktzah machmas fisan kiss was a sheichet's knife. We would never use it for anything else, only for shechita. So those, even Reb Shimon agrees to that muktzah. See, we were thinking that it's a type of muktzah that it's, I'm not using this today. That's a Reb Yehuda muktzah. This is a muktzah that everyone agrees to, not just I'm not using it today. No one would ever use this for anything else. Okay. I'm sorry. There are some people that learned this slightly different. They quote the end of the Mishnah that you can't use the wood from the wood pile. This tells me that I'm not allowed to start from the storage. I'm not allowed to take from the storage. Mani, which opinion is this that holds that storage things are muktzah? Rabbi Yehuda, the muktzah. That's obviously the Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Let's go back to the Reisha. Sounds odd that it should work like this. You're allowed to take straw. Also, the Reb Shimon. That's Reb Shimon's opinion. The Lesley muktzah, who doesn't hold that there's an issue of muktzah, even though the straw is also in a storage. It says Hasan betaf Nasaria. Over there, that straw, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, would be permissible because the straw began to rot, and you wouldn't use it for anything else other than for burning. It says Tiv Nasaria Chazi Latino. What are you talking about? Straw that starts to rot, you can use for bricks. Says this Beitza. You can't use it for bricks if there are thorns in it, because how do you make it into bricks? So there's no use for it. Yeah, come. Okay. We're on top of Lamadam and Bez. The way we just resolved that was that even Rabbi Yehuda would agree that it's not muktzah, because it's been designated for storage, but not for storage, for burning. And therefore, when you take it to burn, that would be something that Yehuda would accept. Oh, on Yom Tov, you're allowed to use it for getting the fire started.
Does it say why? This particular. Isn't he the one who didn't believe it?
Right. But this is an important piece because it tells us that even Reb Shimon that doesn't hold of muktzah holds of exceptions.
Why?
Reb Shimon's view is that a person would, even though he doesn't, his view is that when someone designates something that I'm not using it, he doesn't really mean that he's not using it. He's not using it unless he needs to use it. So he never really accepted, just because of the fact that you put it in the cabinet for Pesach doesn't mean that you're only going to use it for Pesach. If you need it, you'll open up the cabinet and take it. Yeah, right. Just unless it's mamish mukta that you like, that it's impossible to use, then Shimon would accept that. Okay. Let's see. We have a new Mishnah here on the top. It's a lot of Ashkacha Pratis in this stuff. Matches where we're holding. You can't take wood off a sukkah. Rashi tells us right away, and the Gemara is going to tell us that we're not actually dealing with the sukkah of sukkahs. We're dealing with a hut that you put branches on, so that you should be able to sit outside. You're not allowed to take the wood off it on Yom Tov. We'll see why. But you're allowed to take the wood from the side of it. The Gemara says, the assumption here is that if you take the wood, the Gemara's understanding is to take wood off the top. If you take wood off the top, you're destroying an oyel. An oyel is a tent, which is a small structure. Now, you're not allowed to deconstruct on Shabbos or Yom Tov, just like you're not allowed to build. You can't take away, you can't build. It's a problem with the strollers, with the just like this problem with an umbrella. You can't lift up an umbrella. You're making an oyel arai, a temporary tent. The wood on the stroller, if you pull it over, it's like an umbrella. Unless it's opened already from beforehand. But if you have one that you have to put on, that could be an issue. You're allowed to open a table because you don't use under it. You use the top of it. But there's a problem. So yeah, don't tell anyone because so what's the problem? You're deconstructing a tent, right? So, but from the wood that's also on the roof, what we're thinking now is that it's piled high. So you can't take from the lower levels or something, but you're allowed to take from the upper levels or from the wood that's on the side, because you have a whole pile of schach up there. You can take off from other. That's also taking away from the tent. Now, Rashi adds in, I'm sorry, wait for that. What we're assuming here is that anything that's on the roof is bottled to the schach, and it's all considered schach. The answer to this question is, why are you allowed to take anything off the roof? I'm Rabbi Yudam Shmuel, my samach ledefanis. It's not talking about the roof, it's talking about next to the walls. Okay. So here's where Rashi comes in and he says, the walls are woven like canvas. So if I have something that's next to it, it's not woven into the wall. But the schach is not woven. And so therefore, when you pile it up on the schach, so it becomes bottled to the schach, because what's schach? It's a branch on the roof. When I put on another branch, so now I have more schach. It's not that I have schach plus something else. No, it's all becomes schach. It all becomes schach. But if I have a wall that's woven and you have another branch next to the wall, that's next to the wall. It's not the wall, because the wall was woven. So therefore, it's not part of the wall, and it's not a problem to take it away. Okay. Yeah, that's probably what's happening. Naftali pointed out this. They probably want to burn it. Rab Menashe Amar afilu tein b'shem samach l'defanis. It's possible that it's actually on the roof. It's not by the wall. But then how are you allowed to take it off? Hitanyahi b'saraisa. We're talking about that it's a bundle. And it was never bottled to the schach. Why'd you put it on the roof? Because you wanted it to dry out. The wood they would use for kindling, they needed it to become dry. If it was wet, it would just smoke. So they needed it to dry. So they would put it on the roof in a bundle. Now, because it's in a bundle, it was never bottled to the schach. It says, here it says Tanya, it's supposed to be, according to the Bach, Tani. Tani Rav Chia Bar Yosef, Tamid Rav Yechanan. Rav Chia Bar Yosef teaches the following in front of Rav Yechanan. You're not allowed to take wood off the sukkah, but you're allowed to take it off the side. And now, that was our Mishnah, but this is a brisa, so it has some added details. Reb Shimon Mater, that we didn't see yet. Reb Shimon allows you to take it. Take that wood. But everyone agrees, even Reb Shimon, that says that you're allowed to. He says if it's on sukkahs, you're not allowed to. But if you made a condition, then according you follow the condition. The Gemara is going to get into that. What's going on? The Gemara asks right away. Reb Shimon Mater, Reb Shimon allows you to take schach off a sukkah. You're not allowed to deconstruct. You're not allowed to take apart a tent, disassemble a sukkah, a structure on Yom Tov. We're talking about that the sukkah collapsed. So you're not deconstructing, it collapsed.
So taking it off?
No, it collapsed. And now we're saying that you're allowed to use the wood to burn. In Reb Shimon Latamei, the Lesley Muktzah. Reb Shimon holds that even though when Yom Tov started, that was not meant for firewood, that was meant for your sukkah. But now that it's collapsed, in other words, Reb Shimon's view about all of this muktzah thing is that I know I'm not right now. I'm not really using it, but should it collapse, I would use it.
If I use no wood.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Wait a little. There's a Taisvis here that discusses that. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Meiser Hashemin shebenever shebekara asur Reb Shimon Mater. You have a candle. In the top place if you have it's not a candle, it's a lamp, and there's a little bit of oil. The lamp goes out. There's oil that's left in it. Now you want to dip your bread and have some oil. So you're allowed to use it according to Reb Shimon. That was designated not for use. That was designated to burn in the lamp. Shimon says, well, I could have had that in mind. That if there's anything left. So he doesn't hold the muktzah. So too over here, it collapsed. It's collapsed. I'm allowed to use it. The Gemara says, 1 second. Here you're going to get Reb Shimon's svara. Me, dummy. Can you compare these two cases? Oil in a lamp and a collapsed sukkah. Over there, his lamp is burning. He's hungry. As well, if the candle goes out, I can have some of the oil. So he's waiting. He has an intention that if it goes out, it would be nice. I can eat something. Do you think he's sitting and waiting for his sukkah to collapse so he can get some firewood? So therefore, Reb Shimon's svara of why he doesn't hold the muktzah is because he has that intention initially that maybe it's going to go out and I'll be able to use it. So it was never really muktzah. He doesn't have that intention by the sukkah that maybe it's going to collapse and I'll be able to warm my house. No, we're talking about a pop-up sukkah. Talking about that he doesn't know if this thing's going to handle the wind. He had intention the whole time. This was one of those sukkahs. He doesn't know. Okay. Now, they agree that it's usher on sukkahs. And then if there's a condition, in other words, on sukkahs, you're not allowed to take the wood. But if there's a condition, then it helps. But tonight you're allowed to make a condition and then use the wood from your sukkah. Look at what it says. You're not allowed to use any wood from the sukkah, the whole sukkah. The holiday of Sukkot is 7 days for God. How do you know that just like a sacrifice can't be eaten from until it's slaughtered? You can't have usage of it until it's slaughtered, until it's offered, and then it's not a sacrifice anymore. Then you get to eat from the Mizbeach. You get to eat from God's table. A sukkah is forbidden to make use of, just like a korban chagiga is forbidden to make use of. So what are you saying? That if you make a condition, you're allowed to use it. You know what? We read that part of the Mishnah. That's actually the Beitza that says that you're not allowed to use the sukkah sachag. But if you make a condition, then it's allowed. That's not talking about sukkah sachag. That's not talking about a sukkah of sukkahs. That's talking about a sukkah of the rest of the year. We took away the period. And so therefore you read it all as one sentence. So that's why you have the question. Put a period in there, and it's going back on the beginning. That a regular sukkah, you're not supposed to take wood from, even though it's not a sukkah, sukkah. Okay. Umar says a sukkah the mitzvah loy. Oh, you have Mahani there? Oh. No. I mean, in the middle of the line. The sukkah the mitzvah loy, you're not allowed to use the sukkah you can't make a tanai on a sukkah, even though it's a sukkah of chag. We're talking about decorations of a sukkah. You put on proper schach, and then you put on these sheets that are decorated. This is, you hung walnuts or almonds or peaches or pomegranates or grape clusters that are hanging from the stem, or you hung up glasses, crystal glasses that are holding in it wine and oil and flour, or a wreath of stalks of wheat or some. You're not allowed to use those nice decorations that you put up. In those days, they didn't have plastic, so they would hang up real fruits. So, but can you eat those fruits? So it's part of your sukkah decorations. So you're not allowed to use it because it becomes part of your sukkah. You're not supposed to use it. But if you make a condition that I'm not separating myself from this, then you are allowed to take from it. What are you telling me that on sukkahs you're not allowed to use the schach? Even if you make a condition, you can use the decorations. You can probably use the schach also. Abaye brava damer tavaya baimer any baidel mehem kol ben ashmashes by chala kedusha alayim. Abalatzia sukkah the chala kedusha alayim katzayla shiva. Abaye and Rava say there's a difference. I can't take apart my sukkah ben ashmashes. Ben ashmashes, right when sukkah is coming in. I can't break down a tent. So therefore the kedusha goes on it, and ben ashmashes comes. And it becomes designated for sukkah. I can't make any conditions because I don't have the option of taking it apart because it's an oil. However, when it comes to the decorations, I can theoretically, ben hashmashas, I could take from them. And if I decide ben hashmashas that I'm not putting them into my sukkah, they're just there right now, but really when I want to eat a grape, I'm going to pull it off so that I'm able to do ben hashmashas. There's no problem of taking it apart. If you have 7 esrogim, over there you can designate one per day, and then according to Rav, right when you're finished shaking lulav, you can eat it. And according to Rav Asi, I can eat it the following day. Over there, I can sort of make a condition and I can eat it on Sukkot itself. Sukkot is one sukkah that goes to the whole sukkah even by the night. It's also it's one mitzvah. You sit in the sukkah at night as well. But the shaking of the lulav is separated. So therefore, those are separate mitzvahs every single day. Therefore, I can designate one for each day of Sukkot, and it doesn't continue to the next day. I can eat it on the next day. But the sukkah, it's one mitzvah of sukkah, it becomes designated for the whole sukkah. Okay. Taisvis on the top discusses if the day after Simchas Torah is Shabbos, if you're allowed to eat your esrog. All of this mamish, it talks about the Isra Chag of Simchas Torah. Because it was prepared for it. When did it become mutter? It became mutter on. No, you're not allowed to eat it even on Shmini Atzeres because of Sveka Diyama. Then Simchas Torah is another issue. Aval Nogu Olam Kishchol Shiba Shisa Chag Be'erev Shabbos She Mistapim Em Shabbos Shu Asiri. Yeah. It says that it's an issue because it was prepared to be eaten on the Yom Tov before Shabbos. It was supposed to be the weekday supposed to prepare for Shabbos, not the. It could be Erev Tavshil. Okay.